everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kyle Lim. I am a scientific editor at Cell Press and one of the lead editors at Cell Mentor. I'm joined today by Ru and Rose St. Pierre, authors of a recent Cell Mentor blog post and founders of SteamID, which is an app for academic resources. Ru and Rose, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Hi, Kyle. Thanks for having us. My name is Rose St. Pierre. I am a registered nurse and currently pursuing a master's in nursing at Northeastern University.
Hi, Kyle. Thank you so much. We're incredibly grateful for the opportunity to present our effort. My name is Rudolph St. Pierre. Everyone calls me Ru. I currently am a PhD candidate in the chemical biology program at Harvard.
Great, thank you. So your post on Cell Mentor tells the story of your experiences as immigrant scientists, searching for internships and establishing your careers here in the States, ultimately leading to the founding of SteamID. But I wanted to rewind a little bit and ask what inspired you to pursue science?
Sure, definitely. So the story goes back to where I'm from. I was born and raised in Haiti by a single mom back home. And growing up, my uncle was a strong father figure in my life, and he was a physics and math teacher at the same level, at the high school level, basically, if you're comparing the two systems here in the, between Haiti and the U.S. And he, from a super early time, and just when I was, maybe from about like being 5, he instilled a love and reverence into the physical sciences in me. And, I would watch him, and I remember I was like much younger than a lot of the peers that he was teaching, and he would sort of recruit me to help him like grade papers or sort of things. And I just remember, that time really well. So when I transitioned over to the US, it only made sense that I would actually major in the sciences. He unfortunately passed away after the earthquake, but I think, every time that I sort of am thinking about the work that we're doing, I think he would be like really proud of what we're up to.
My path to science is more like straightforward, unlike Ru. My mom, I grew up seeing my mom delivering babies from mothers in our community who could not afford a hospital bed. And my mom's way of giving back to the community actually inspired me to be a nurse.
It's great to hear. I'm sorry to hear about your uncle's passing. So you both mentioned your inspirations and you growing up in Haiti. Wanted to ask you, when you both immigrated to the States, what motivated that decision and how did you go about setting up your lives in Boston?
Sure. So I left in December of 2004. And around the time that I was, I kind of had to leave, there were a ton of political upheaval where they were trying to depose of the president back then. So I remember at the time school would close for like weeks at a time, for up to a month sometimes too. And my mom sort of, said, this is it, I'm going to send you over to your sister, to my aunt, which is her older sister. And guess what? They live in Boston. So I sort of ended up, moving up to actually, in a little town called Hyde Park up here in Boston, Massachusetts.
Unlike Ru, I didn't finish high school here. I came here at the age of like 22. And my whole family was here in Boston. So that actually made sense that I came to Boston. And when I came to Boston, a friend introduced me because I did not know the language. So I wanted to pursue further my education, but I did not know the language. So it made sense that I had to take a few ESL classes before applying for college. So a friend introduced me to the school, which is in Boston, right on Mass Ave, named Educational Development Group. There I had a chance to be mentored by so many students from those prestigious schools, like Harvard is among them, Northeastern and Boston College. And after taking a few classes at EDG, I went to Asian American Civic Association. It's in Chinatown. And there I met with so many great people who actually wrote great letters of recommendation for me for my first scholarship and also my college applications.
Now, full disclosure, I don't know how many times people ask us this. We actually did not meet in Haiti. Like, we actually met here in Boston. So we just happened to just immigrate to the same city. We had zero friends in common, like, on Facebook when we actually first met. So,
and went to the same school.
But we went to the same school throughout our entire undergrad. We met toward like almost a month before I graduated from UMass Boston. So lucky me, I guess.
We'll have to hear that story some other time. It's great that you had a family support, though. I think that is important as a recent immigrant myself. So going back to your blog post, your post focuses on why students should prioritize internships. What made you realize that internships are so important for your career path?
Yeah, definitely. So this is an interesting question in that we did not know initially. So it's one of these things where we only figured it out after the fact. While in college, I actually had close to a full-time job. And so I was one of those glorified commuter students where I would touch base, pick my classes and quickly leave because I had to, head back to my job. And part of that process in doing that is you don't have the time to figure out whether you should do an internship or keep working because the money that you're making is important because it's providing to resources to my household. So toward the end of UMass Boston, this is where I did my undergrad in chemistry. It was a fortunate, a lucky encounter. They were having a session about internships. I was like walking past, and I just stopped by, and they had a representative from the Dana-Farber Harvard Cancer Center, and they were talking about a program called CURE. So I picked up an application, applied, and that was, that sort of changed my trajectory because in college, I was majoring in chemistry to, frankly, to go to medical school. I did the CURE program, and that really changed my view on my career choices. Like, I actually love doing research, and that's sort of I think it was I was just fortunate. It changed my mind because I did one internship. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so it is clear that internships was a booster for your career path, and it probably is. Do you think that right now students are not aware of how much the internship can benefit their careers? Or if they are aware, what do you think keeps the students from pursuing them?
Well, some may know the importance of an internship. Others, especially like newcomers, like we once were, may not understand or appreciate how important an internship can be, especially like in like giving you the exposure of your field of interest, or like getting that first job right after college. Because that's the same thing that happened to me. After I had my internship, I was able to secure an entry-level position at that internship site. And that's what we spent a decent amount of time in doing outreach in underrepresented communities to help solve that issue.
And Kyle, to add to what Rose just said, one of the as well that happens a ton. There's like this misconceived notion that an internship is automatically you work for free. That's not necessarily the case. There are a number of opportunities out there that are paid opportunities, right? And folks have to be aware of those. And there are opportunities where you do them, and the school will give you a school credit for the work that you do for someone else. And these opportunities, while may not offer you cash, but they might offer you a network that you can utilize, right, to gain a position or a job, after you graduate from college.
So after all your experiences, you have gone and founded STEAMID to help students discover paid internship opportunities. And you also mentioned on the STEAMID's website, especially for underrepresented communities. How did you come up with that specific idea?
Yeah, definitely. So I started STEAMID a very long time ago, to be frank. And I'll tell you how that happened. Is after UMass Boston, the school, as well as a few high schools in Boston, would sort of invite me on campus to talk, to sit on a panel, for instance, and talk about, how, do you get an internship and how do you apply, and also talk about our path after UMass Boston, because I was lucky in that I met these folks. I applied, got in, and thanks to that program, I got my first job right out of college, working for the Dana-Farber super early on. So people would ask me questions about how to do this. So I sort of realized that there was a void, there was a need for the information itself. So that sort of started and has been happening since 2011. However, last year in 2019, Rose and I, we took a risk and we said, hey, let's see whether there is a true need for the work. We put together an Excel sheet of academic resources, and at the time it was only internships. Actually, I remember fact, STEAM-ID, the ID stands for internship database. That's what it used to stand for initially before we had everything else. But other than that, the sheet that we shared across the state of Massachusetts was well received. I can't tell you how many people reached out back to us and asked us to put their own internships from their school or from their institution on the Excel sheet that we had back then. So that told us there was a need for this, and we had to pursue it.
So having that idea and then start with an Excel sheet is already pretty impressive. How did you go on to develop the skills and code STEAM-ID as an app itself?
That's what took a while. So initially, we tried to, say recruit, among friends and coworkers and as well as across my school, just to find folks that could handle technology on our behalf. It turns out it is rather difficult to say enlist someone on a dream without any pay. It doesn't matter how passionate you are. Folks have their personal life, and they sort of have to do what they have to do. However, when the shutdown took place, Rose and I, we looked at each other and we said, hey, we know there's a demand. The tool doesn't exist quite yet as the way that we want it to exist in the world. Why don't we just sit down and watch, on the YouTube? That's let me full disclosure, and just teach yourself, to the best of our ability, how to do this. And believe it or not, we've put together, a number of different services, some of which requires a little bit of coding, some of which requires no coding at all. And we've sort of pieced it together just to build that sort of that first iteration to put out in the world and see, how well received that it could become. And thus far, we've had, about 6,000 users across, the country. And we've only done our outreach in the state of Massachusetts. We've not, crossed borders and talked to anyone else apart from folks in our state. And it's interesting to us that, there is, that it's being used.
Well, that's very inspiring and very impressive. So I think this is a good segue for my next question of what would be your advice to someone who has a similar idea, wants to launch an app or website or startup while also completing their STEM education?
So what I would say is find a partner you trust. Not only trust, but find a partner that believes in your idea and is actually as passionate as you are. And you have to test your idea in the real world. You don't know if it's going to work. So you got to test it the same way that Wu and I did. And you take the leap. So to reiterate what Wu said, so we noticed that the Excel sheet worked. So many people needed that. And it even ended up in Mayor's Walsh youth career website. Yeah. So we saw that the work was needed. And that's why we actually took the risk and worked really hard to get the app out. Wu and I have made a great deal of work together, things that we would have never dreamed that would ever happen to us. And we are bringing the same spirit, focus, and strategic approach to STEAM-ID. And we hope our work will help students across America, it's not even the world.
That's both career and life advice, I think.
Which we can, because we do have a son, and it's a fun time.
So you touched a little bit on this, but as a final question, what is the future for STEAM-ID, and also importantly, what is the future for the both of you?
Definitely. So as far as STEAM-ID is concerned, we'll continue growing the database. We're actively, applying to say incubators across the country just to make this dream a reality. So that way we can, sort of like put the effort in front of, folks that can actually advise us. We are excited to to maybe attract some of the professional help at some point, because there is a need for this. We are serving a community that, may not necessarily know that all these opportunities are out there. They may not even know how to apply, and and we're happy to do this because we've gone through the process, and we think we have something to contribute.
Thank you, Ruru and Rose. Thank you very much for your time and your expertise. For people watching, please be sure to read the post. It's live now on Cell Mentor, and also, of course, to check out STEAMID at mysteamid.org. And for more insights to power your career, you can head over to cellmentor.com, which is an online resource for CellPress and from CellPress and cell signaling technology. You can find blogs, videos like this one, handbooks, and how-to help you get inspired, get technical, get published, and also get hired. Thank you.
Thank you.